TheSketchMonkey here. I'm back at Urban Motors to have a look at the 2023 Toyota RAV4. This is the XLE trim, and it also has the premium package, which is a $2,000 option. And I'm going to let you know exactly why I think every single RAV4 should have that $2,000 option. It is actually the best-selling mid-size crossover SUV out there, with 400,000 cars sold in 2022, which is just amazing. The second place was a Honda CR-V, way further down the line. So what we're gonna do in this video is have a look at this design in this specific color, which is very hard to find. We're gonna look at the front end, the side, the rear, the interior, and then we're gonna take this for a drive to try to figure out why this is selling so well. Let's have a look at some of the basic spec and tech of the 2023 Toyota RAV4 XLE Premium. You have a 2.5-liter inline-4 putting out 204 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque, connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Comes with all-wheel drive. 0 to 60 takes 8.2 seconds. Fuel economy comes in at 27 city, 34 highway, and the price for this one is $40,990. So, starting with the front end design of the RAV4, the 2023 model XLE Premium. What do we have in the front end? We have a pretty aggressive front, in my opinion. It looks angry, it looks almost industrial with all these chamfers and lines that go in the front end. And then you have this piece inside of the headlight. Daytime run light actually sits up top, up here, and then you have the indicator down low and the big headlight unit light bulb right here in the middle with the blacked out housing for it. I think it looks great. Up here you do have what looks to be an intake, but this is just a plastic piece that is all covered up. I would love to see some holes in here just to add some extra cooling into the engine bay of this thing. Looking at the grills of the RAV4, and what I like about this is everything is functional. There is a pretty big grill up top and down at the bottom, but they both serve a purpose because, as you can see, everything here is completely open, both in the top and in the lower section. And you have this big black plastic trim piece going across the front bumper, sticking pretty far up into the front end. And I like that about the RAV4 because what this does is if you hit stuff when you're going on the trails, you don't have to worry too much about scratching the paint because you have this massive black piece like we also have in the rear. I'm gonna show you that in just a second. Now let me know what you think about this lunar rock color. I think it looks great. It has this almost cement clay-like tone to it. Part of the premium package that is a $2,000 option is that you do get these fog lights right here. If you don't go with the premium package, this is just gonna be a plastic piece that is covered up, and it does look like something is missing in the front end when you don't choose the premium package for your RAV4. I think this looks great with the fog lights down here. There are a couple of lines here that are a little bit confusing. There's a lot going on in the styling of this car, not just in the front end, but all around this exterior. Coming around to the side view of the 2023 RAV4, and you do have a bunch of lines here. This is typical Toyota styling, going a little nuts with the chamfers and the line flow that we have here. For example, have a look at this line that wraps around the greenhouse and then comes back into the C-pillar down here and then goes in and up under the rear door handle, in addition to the shoulder line that then fades into this chamfer. I think it's a very interesting take on a shoulder line. And then again, you have another line at the very bottom down here in between the axles that further carves out some of this volume of this design. However, there are a couple of things here in the side view that I would like to change, and that has to do with the trim pieces around the wheel arches. So what I'm talking about is this section right here. You see this black piece going around the wheel arches? What I want to change here is to just extend them all the way down to meet the lower parts of the same trim pieces down here. I don't want to have this piece being body colored, because what I think this does is creates islands around the wheels. So what do I mean by islands around the wheels? Well, it's the same thing as a diffuser island in the rear end. This piece has no connection to the rest of the trim pieces that are the same material. So you don't have any connection with this piece in the lower section. So just extending these, I think, is gonna make it look better, and it's also going to reduce the overall visual height of the design if we do that onto this RAV4. In addition to the front fog lights that is part of the premium package, another big reason why you should get this $2,000 package is because you get the 19-inch wheels instead of the very small looking 17-inch wheels, and this looks so much better than the 17 inches. You also have the two 35mm wide tires all around the car. It just sets off the proportions in a much cleaner way with the premium package. I also like this design better of the wheels themselves than we have on the 17-inch wheel. When it comes to Asian car design philosophy, they have a lot of styling going on, a bunch of different lines, and just like Kia, Toyota has this idea of putting some piece of trim to just cut through the C or D pillar, and that goes for this car as well. You see that right here, similar to what we have in the Kias. Kia, I think, that makes it in a bit more stylish way, because this trim piece in this case, it doesn't really feel like it belongs here. It's just two parallel lines cutting through this area, while Kia has some flow to it to make it feel a little more integrated in what we have here. Coming around to the 3/4 rear view of the 2023 RAV4 in this lunar rock color, we still have that industrial feel like we have in the front end coming back in the rear here as well. Just look at the chiseledness that we have going on here. We have this sharp cut into this section of the car. The taillights looks very cool as well, sticking out a little bit here in the corners and adding it doesn't feel like it's part of the overall surface. Again, adding to this more industrial feel of the overall design of this. Further down, we do have the license plate integration right here. You can see that it is a housing for it with these two lines. And we also have the RAV4 stamped here with the 4 being blacked out. And over here, you can see that you do have the XLE all-wheel drive trim level for this specific RAV4, looking fantastic. As we move further down, you can see that we do have the same type of integration like we have in the front end with the big plastic pieces sticking out pretty far on the rear end and in the front, meaning that you could actually take this off-road, as I said, without worrying too much about scratching this lunar rock paint. You also have these reflector lights integrated in the bumper itself, and you have dual exhaust pipes in chrome, looking really clean and adding some sportiness to this design. Up top, we do have the wiper still visible here on the windshield, but in this case, this being more of an industrial design, I actually think it kind of suits this car to have the wiper visible up here. You also have a pretty large roof spoiler up here with the reverse light integrated in it, and when we open this up, you can see just how big the trunk space is for the RAV4. And I think this is one of the big selling points of this car. This is a really good small mid-size crossover SUV. It's also power assisted, this tailgate. Now, looking at the RAV4 from a straight rear view, you can clearly see that this has more of horizontal lines going that we have in the front end, but we still have these lines going down, similar to what we have in the grille in the front. So we do have a nice connection with the graphics in the front end and the graphics in the rear. And again, I think this has this more industrial, almost militaristic style to it. And maybe that has something to do with why this is selling so well these days. Welcome to the beautiful interior of the Toyota RAV4 XLE Premium. And I actually really like this interior because I think this is a good combination, good balance between new and old style and technology. So let's fire this up, because I want to show you part of this gauge cluster that I think is really cool. So up here, let's start up top as usual and walk away further down. So up top, we do have a 10.5-inch infotainment screen that doesn't really feel very well integrated in the rest of the interior. However, as with the exterior design, this being more of an industrial militaristic style, in my opinion, to the styling, I actually think this again suits this design, to have it be more of this rugged look to it and not have it be, you know, beautifully organically integrated in the rest of the body. So what do we have here? We do have a touchscreen, of course, 10.5 inches. We can go into vehicle alert. We can check that out. There's nothing really going on there. Trip information, you can see all the information about your fuel economy and so on. We can't get the navigation right here because you need a subscription for that. We can go into media, the phone settings, and into the general settings of the car itself. Here you have all the connectivity, the Apple CarPlay, the Android Auto. Pretty straightforward, this integration. There's not a lot of settings you can change in the infotainment screen. I'm totally fine with that. I don't need to have 38 different drive modes for my Toyota RAV4. It just doesn't make sense. You also have the volume knob right here integrated on the screen itself, which is pretty unusual. Further down, we do have a couple of vents looking very simple to use. You also have the on and off, the shut off for the vent sliders right here, and you can clearly see where the air is going to come out from because you can see all the fins in the vents very clearly, the direction of the air itself. The overall styling of the dash, you can see this rugged look to it, but what I like about this is that we have the rugged styling, but we have very nice materials in this premium version of the RAV4 XLE. We have this aluminum piece up top, which is probably plastic, but it looks aluminum and looks silver, looks nice, adds some contrast to the overall interior. Then you have the soft touch material leather right here, and this top part is also soft touch material. Moving further down on the dash here, you do have the large, big knobs for the climate control settings, and I love seeing this. We even have it being rubberized with some texture going around it, so very easy to grip and figure out what it is you're adjusting as you're driving along without having to look down. If I want to adjust the temp, there is one single big knob here, and that is for adjusting the temperature. It doesn't get much more easy than that. Further down, you do have the buttons for the traction control on and or off, or you have the automatic shut off for the engine on and off. So let's turn that off, obviously. Down here, you do have some more storage compartment. This does not look like it is a wireless charger, but you do have a 12-volt cigarette outlet and a regular USB down here. Further down in this control panel, you do have, of course, the gear selector, which feels pretty normal to me. When you put it in reverse, of course, you're going to get the backup camera with the trajectory lines. And Toyota are making some of the best resolution when it comes to the backup cameras. They look absolutely fantastic, and it's very easy to see everything that goes on around you or specifically behind you. So let's put that back into park. You do have the parking brake here, you have the auto hold for the brakes, and here you have the drive mode. So you have a single button for each of the drive modes that you have in this car. You have 6 different drive modes: Eco, Normal, Sport, Snow, Mud and Sand, Rock, and Dirt. So let's put it into Sport, and let's see what happens with the gauge cluster. So the gauge cluster switches colors between the different drive modes. Eco being green, then you have Normal being pretty much no color. Sport, guess what color Sport is? Of course, it's going to be red in the gauge cluster, looking pretty cool. It's good to have these type of settings. If you happen to find yourself in a tricky situation, just put it in Mud and Sand or Rock and Dirt, and I'm sure this RAV4 is going to crawl itself out of that situation. Further back, you do have 2 big cup holders here. There's no lid for it, which is fine. You can just put whatever stuff you want in there if you don't have a drink. And then you have this leather-wrapped, beautiful armrest, which of course has a rather big storage underneath it for this size of vehicle. Now, moving on to these seats, and this is another reason. Keep in mind this premium package costs $2,000. You get the fog lights, you get the different wheels, the 19s instead of the 17s, and I think that in itself is worth $2,000. But you also get these beautiful leather seats that look pretty sporty to me to be in a RAV4 instead of the fabric seats that you get in the non-premium RAV4. Looking fantastic. Moving on to the gauge cluster here, it has a nice housing to it. It looks like the screen in the middle is about 7 or 8 inches, something like that. But what I love about this integration is that it flows from the analog feel of the tachometer to the left side, and then the circle itself continues into the screen. It's a very cool integration, so it looks like you have 2 circles. And of course, the center display, you can configure it to show you whatever you want. The MPGs, the driving assist, and the media, and so on. It's very easy to use to figure out what exactly you want to have displayed in this center display. And this is what I'm talking about. It's a good combination, great balance between technology, new stuff, and then you have some analog features specifically here in the gauge cluster. Moving on to the steering wheel, it's a pretty normal looking Toyota steering wheel, which is of course adjustable, so you can get your driving position just perfect. On the left side of the gauge cluster, we do have another vent, and we have a lot of small little shelf like we have here, although it's a lot smaller, and you have the buttons for the tailgate, so you can open up the tailgate by pressing this button right here. Looking at the door panels, again, this industrial look comes back definitely in the door panel with this sharp angle for the handle itself, and it's very functional. It's a lot of black in the door panel. I would personally want to have some contrast stitching or leather piece in the doors and maybe in the seats and in the dash overall, to not have everything be completely black, but the functionality of the doors are still there with some cup holders and storage space in the bottom. Looking up top, you do have a standard sized sunroof, which is all nice. You can open this up fully if you want to. And last but not least, before we jump into the back seat, it does, of course, it's a Toyota RAV4, of course it does have a glove box right here. So jumping into the back seat of the 2023 RAV4, and this selling 400,000 units in 2022, it has to be practical, and it definitely is. This is my driving position up front, and I have so much leg room up here, back here. I also have a lot of headroom, as you can see. There's nothing fancy going on back here. It's very simple. You do have two vents, you do have two USB-C ports down low, and if you fold down to the center armrest, you do gonna have a leather-wrapped armrest and two cup holders back here. So everything you need, and that's about it for the back seat. Okay, we're taking the 2023 Toyota RAV4 XLE Premium out for a drive. I'm gonna put it in sport, and let's see how sporty this can get. Already, it feels very lively. You have 204 horsepower in this, connected to an 8-speed automatic. So it's definitely not quick, but the steering feels pretty precise. It's connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission. I think that helps with the driving as well, because you have more shifts. The shifts are not too crazy long, so that kind of makes it feel a little quicker or more energetic. Let's check out the turning radius in the 2023 RAV4, and it is absolutely fantastic. It's such a nimble, small little car, this. And the good news is that it's still pretty capable off-road. With the 8-speed automatic, then you have all-wheel drive. Got all the things you need, specifically with the premium package, the $2,000 package, with the wheels, fog lights in the front, this leather interior. I think that's what makes this sell so well. It's just, it doesn't do anything unnecessary. It's everything you want, and it's also pretty fun to drive, even though it only has just over 200 horsepower and 0 to 60 in 8.2 seconds. But that's not what this is about. This is about the value you get for what you're paying. And when it comes to that, I think they did a fantastic job. Big thanks again to Urban Motors for providing this RAV4 for me to review for you guys today. If you're interested in this one or any other car they have here on the lot, they have a bunch of Tacomas, for example, make sure you click the link in the description, or simply go to urbanmotors.com. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.